Hi, I'm Femi OK and you're in the stream. Today, the recent attacks in Paris have been the worst France has seen in decades. So what impact will they have on French society? In the last few days, if you've been online talking about the Charlie Hebdo attacks and life after the Charlie Hebdo attacks, you would have tapped into an incredibly lively, vibrant conversation. Malika Bilal, what are you seeing online?
Vibrant images, really, that are being shared, especially from the rally in Paris and across France. If you take a look at my computer, these are images, these are videos that were uploaded on vineviewer.com of the January 11th march. And have a listen to this one in particular. It really sent chills up my spine. They're chanting unity, and there's, of course, more where that came from on the site. You can scroll down and see all of them. So for those of you at home, we want to know what you think in the wake of these attacks. Tweet us your take with hashtag AJStream.
Now with us in the studio we have Manuel Reinhardt, and Manuel is a doctoral student at the American University right here in Washington DC. He was born and raised in Paris. Manuel, it's great to have you here in this conversation.
Thank you for having me.
And we will look forward to hearing much more from you in just a moment. But before we get started, let me tell you all about a new app from the stream. You can download it absolutely right now. We're taking interactivity to a whole new level. You can use the app during the live TV show for exclusive content, quizzes, and a whole lot more. And it's just another way that you can be part of the stream. Let's begin this conversation though with some of the popular hashtags associated with the Charlie Hebdo attack. 3.7 million people across France marched for unity on Sunday after 3 days of violence gripped the capital, Paris. A total of 17 people were killed over 3 days of violence that began with a shooting at the satirical magazine Charlie Hebdo. 12 people died, including 5 of France's most prominent political cartoonists and a police officer. Just days later, French police ended 2 hostage situations, one at a printing house with the 2 alleged Charlie Hebdo shooters and another with a suspected conspirator at a kosher grocery store. All 3 men were killed by the police. 4 hostages also died. So today we want to discuss what impact will this have on the people of France, and to help us do that we're also joined by Elsa Ray. She's a spokeswoman at the Collective Against Islamophobia in France. Nora Susan-Briat is a French student studying to be a diplomat. Avi Habacek is a French Jewish citizen. So it's great to have you all here in the stream. Let me go to Avi. Avi, you were in one of the rallies yesterday. When you were there, standing there, can you give us a sense of what it felt like?
Yes. Well, it felt like there was a sense of national unity at the rally, that communities across the spectrum were brought together, and I saw French flags flying alongside Lebanese flags and Portuguese flags, and it was very peaceful, very international. There was strong symbolism, and that definitely felt like there was a moment of realization that we had to do something, and there was a lot of energy. And that for one day, Paris was the capital of freedom of expression, the capital against the fight of radicalism, and I don't know what will happen in the future in the aftermath. There's a lot to debate about that, but there's certainly a lot of energy, and I felt that when I went to the march.
What did you think you were doing? You were standing there doing what?
With posters, Je suis Charlie, showing solidarity. I was also very concerned by the attack on my community that followed the attack on Charlie Hebdo, the attack on the kosher supermarket.
Sure.
So we also had posters with saying, I am Charlie, I am a cop, I am a police officer, I am a Jew, I am a Muslim, to show that, we're all sort of, victims of radicalism, and that we have to stand together against this phenomenon.
Nora, can you relate to that? To what Avi was just saying?
Yes.
I felt the same. It was really a relief. We had a very, very tough week, a week where there were a lot of fear on what could happen in the street, but also what could what could bring this event to our society and the division between communities. So to have everyone not sitting but marching toward the same place, it was really meaningful.
You know, Nora, what you're saying and what you described, what Avi described, is also what I'm seeing online from people. We asked what this meant to French society, to French people who were at that march. We got this tweet. This is in French, so we've translated it. Jamie says, "No question, facing 3 terrorists, 4 million French responded. France and democracy won." And Manuel, we also got this tweet from Tommy, who was there, and he says, "It was massive, it was worthy and silent. I never saw so many people in the streets. Everybody was walking in the same direction and moving." So what is it like for you? What was it like, you know, being a French citizen, but being away from it and seeing it play out online and on TV?
I mean, obviously I would have liked to participate. I think it's great. And it was a great demonstration. Even the police was acclaimed and praised by the people, which is not that usual in France. I think we have like a great momentum right now. 4 million people, it's totally unheard of. Great momentum to try to bring the society together and forget about divisions. And I think the leadership has a great role to play into that. Many times politicians have played on divisions, on fears within society for political gain. It started, I don't know, like 10, 15 years ago, dividing communities for political gains. And I think right now, they must have this role to unite the communities together.
It's not only the politicians' role, I think. We also have a lot of polemicists in France that are using this division for their own glory, and I think it's time for them to have conscience of what they're doing and the impact on the French society.
Elsa, what's this division that people talk about from your perspective?
Well, from my perspective, I think it's very important to hear my friends' experience where they were at the gathering in Place de la République. What Avi said is very interesting, saying that we are Jewish, Muslim, French, etc. The idea of unity of the French nation is very important, especially because the division in the society is very strong, and these attacks happen in a very tense and very difficult context in France, very racist context in France. So I believe that what happened is a new occasion for a new country, actually, a new way to get united and work together against all type of hate.
Right. I mean, you say the idea of unity. Is it still an idea, or is it something that actually is happening right now? Do you feel that something is changing in France?
I think we have to be cautious, because it's one thing to be united during a gathering. It's another thing to have a long-term dynamic. So I think we have to be very careful for the future. We have to work a lot. We have to do cross-community work. To work together to fight against all type of racism and intolerance. We have, like Nora said, we have to fight against hate speech and stigmatizing speech over the media, etc. So I think it's really a long-term work.
I completely agree, and there's, with the attack, French civil society was attacked at its heart, and the response must also come from French civil society, NGOs, intellectuals, individuals. And it's not only up to public authorities to do the job. A lot of energy. I talked about this earlier. There was a lot of energy right now at the march. And the question is, what are we going to do with this energy to sustain a movement where we can fight, agree on the problems dividing French society, and bringing all these communities and tackling these challenges. And that takes a lot of effort, but it must come from civil society.
So Avi, actually, I mean, you posed a question, and I'm interested in hearing your answer of what are we going to do with this energy in light of this tweet that we got from Manu, who tweeted in just about a minute ago saying, as a French citizen and Jewish, I feel under siege. Unfortunately, and it's not the first time I experienced that. So Avi, how do you go about helping your own community move forward?
Yeah, well, given the attack and the statistics, I understand why Jews feel the way they feel. I understand, given the attacks on Muslims as well, I understand why Muslims feel the way they feel, and I understand why other communities feel isolated and under threat. But one of the main things that we must do beyond actions taken from public authorities, protecting communities and so on, is solidarity. Communities showing signs of solidarity to other communities. French society right now is very divisive. It's very divided. And
Avi, can you give us a few examples? The reason we thought it was really important to have an all-French lineup was we wanted these very candid examples. We can say these big statements, but what does that actually mean for your community?
Yeah, I'll give you an example. After I went to the march, I went back home and I went on Twitter. And I was struck by the contrast between the sense of national unity at the march and the animosity and hatred on the internet. And I think the internet right now plays a very big role in disseminating, radical ideas and hatred and animosity. And that's, I don't know, I hope it's not representative of French society, but it gave me a very scary picture.
Okay. All right, so if we're looking at then two communities perhaps under siege, would you say one was the Jewish and one was the Muslim community, or am I then putting up divisions that aren't already there, Elsa?
Well, on my perspective, from my community, from the Muslim community in France, the situation is very critical and has been very critical for years now. Islamophobia is on top of the roof now in France, as well as anti-Semitism, unfortunately. And Muslim people experience discrimination, hate speech, physical violence, etc. on daily basis, and has been very difficult for the past years in France. So the attacks at Charlie Hebdo happened in an already very tense and racist context. And that's why nowadays, today, the Muslim community is very sad about what happened at Charlie Hebdo, but also is very concerned about the backlash and the future after the attacks.
So looking at this idea of backlash, I'm just looking at this map, and it's just about 2 or 3 days after the Charlie Hebdo attacks, which was last Wednesday. And here, I'm just looking at here, more than 15 attacks in just a couple of days, just as a backlash. So what do you do, Elsa, at this point?
Well, at this point, first of all, we recorded more than 50 attacks against Muslims for the past days.
50. So this map is like a massive underestimate as far as you're concerned.
Yes, right. Unfortunately.
Right.
Okay. We had more than 20 mosques being attacked, one of them with a bomb. So it's very serious. We also have a lot of physical and verbal abuse, especially toward Muslim women, because they are obviously more visible. So what we do is we are in touch with the Ministry of Interior all the time, and we report anytime we have a new Islamophobic incident. We report it to the Ministry of Interior to put pressure on them so that they actually take measure to secure the entire country,
right.
And including the Muslims.
So very proactive there, Malika.
Well, I did want to share one image because Avi, of course, mentioned some of the vitriol that he's seen online. I do want to share this one. This is one tweet from someone who writes, the best image of the march, and it shows a Jewish man with a sign saying, I am Jewish and I like Muslims, and Muslim man with a sign saying, I am Muslim and I like Jews. But moving on a little bit, Nora, I wanted to share this tweet with you. And this is someone who says, these attacks show the failure of France's France's education system. This is someone who's now pushing this forward to say, why did this happen and where should we be focusing attention? Do you think the education system is one of those places?
I think it's one key issue. We talk a lot about integration of people coming from immigration, but in my opinion, the main issue is the integration of youth in general into society, and it goes through education. Maybe we should focus more on civic education, which is something that we have in our schools, but which is not very developed. So I think this should be a priority.
Manuel, if you're sitting here with some distance between France and where you are right now in the United States, when you saw what happened over the last couple of days, how do you make sense of that? What would you say was the reason for it?
I mean, when I hear all the guests speaking about it, I feel like the Jewish community are fierce and have legitimate fears. Muslim community does have fears too, and it's true, we cannot deny that over the past 15 years certain communities have been stigmatized to a great deal, and that's why I was like mentioning politicians earlier on, because in my opinion, from my experience, it started around those 2002 years when Sarkozy became the interior minister and became so popular by stigmatizing some communities, and we observe the same effects with current French Prime Minister Manuel Valls, who was also interior minister prior to become
Prime Minister. So you're blaming politicians for the current divisions in French society today?
I mean, they shouldn't extrapolate them. The fact that we spend months discussing about the burqa. Remember this debate in France? Yeah. Discussing about the burqa, where we have like so many very important social, economic problems to tackle. As Nora was saying, education is one of the biggest. Some people feel excluded from society. People who were born and raised in France don't feel French, and this is a major issue in my opinion. And that
what do you think is making them not feel French?
There's a number of reasons for that. If you look at the demographics, some areas in France have very high level of unemployment. The poorest area, mostly composed of Muslim population, have the highest rates of unemployment. You have like a feeling of despair if you don't have perspective, economic, social perspective for some population. You feel excluded of society. If constantly prominent figures in the media talk about problems in your community, talk about issue of the burqa. I mean, for me, it's like it's a diversion from real problems. So I'm not saying that the fears from the Jewish community and the Muslim community they're definitely legitimate. But one reason to address and to bring back this sense of unity is to focus on, real issues that can help.
All right, Malika.
Well, Elsa, I'm hoping that you can pick up on the question that Femi asked, and what's making people not feel French, because we got these tweets from Tommy, a French citizen, who says, you have to face the facts. So we have thrown people out of their country, and in the suburbs, they're without public services, they're without rules, without police. He goes on to say people in the suburbs are left alone without basic state services, and he writes, I don't know why. Elsa, do you know why?
Well, I believe that it's not the only dimension to explain that some people do not feel French. I believe it's more than that. It's also the way some communities are treated, especially on the media and in politicians' public statements.
So give us an example, Elsa, so that we know exactly what you're talking about. Something that struck you.
Well, in French, there is a common trend to Islamophobic rhetoric over the media. Maybe the guy called Éric Zemmour, who is a favorite columnist and a journalist who speak very on regular basis on the mainstream media and talking about the problem of Islam, of Muslim people, of people from the suburbs, etc. So this rhetoric has become so common and so mainstream that now we don't even feel like second zone citizen. And this is not only state service, but it's like a general feeling. I mean, as a convert Muslim, I'm French, but since the minute I became Muslim, I realized what it is to be discriminated and what it is to be
That's
stigmatized.
a unique perspective. Let me just bring in Avi. Avi, what did you want to add?
I agree, and French intellectuals in general frame the debate, but and they tend to isolate one community, and that creates a lot of frustration. And but there's also not only French public intellectuals, but there was, I don't know if international audience is aware of people like Dieudonné, who kind of do the same use the same scapegoating tactics. But it's the same. It's the same story. It's the same old scapegoating tactics that we have in other countries as well.
Sure. Right. Okay. Let me just see if I can go around everybody and see if we can just get a brief thought from you. From last Wednesday to today, what's different in France? Could you put your finger on it, Nora?
Yeah. I think nothing is really different because what we've seen was going to happen, and we knew that. We were aware of these tensions. It could have been coming from anywhere because of this rhetorical speech we were talking about, which are speeches of hate that are really coming from every side of the society. That is the main issue.
So Nora says nothing's different.
Has changed?
Nothing's changed.
No, I think the only thing that might have changed was this gathering, but I'm not sure. But I'm not sure that it's going the real change.
All right.
We hope for this unity, but
Manuel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Avi, hold tight. Manuel's going to finish up very quickly, aren't you, Manuel?
I was not lucky enough to be there, but from in the exterior perspective, it really brings a lot of hope to see that 4 million people can take the streets and shout out against this kind of crimes and shout out for unity, for national unity across communities, religions, atheisms, freedom of speech. So I think that's really positive, and I want to remain optimistic in this regard.
Avi?
No, I think what changed was that it was a moment of realization. We came back home with questions, with frustrations, questions, also hope, a lot of feelings, and we went back home to our families, to our friends, and we held discussions, created a debate, I think that's what changed, and that's in itself it's a lot.
And Elsa, for you, from last Wednesday to today, what's different in France?
I think what is different is that I believe we now, the citizens of France, actually ask the right questions. What do we want for our future? I believe that we have a lot of questions in our heads. We have a lot of fears, but also a lot of hope. And I believe what changed is actually that hope. Before Wednesday, we were all like in our old life and not really asking questions about what is happening. Mm-hmm. And after Wednesday, it's like, okay, we know there is another future that we can have, but we have to work for that. And there is a lot of hope, I believe.
All right. Let me just go to the community. It's good to hear that from perspective from all of our French guests. And the community is saying what, Malika?
I'll give you this last word in a very quick video comment.
I don't think France will change. I think French people will change the way they think, the way they feel concerned about terrorism everywhere in the world. And I think they will feel more solidarity, maybe. I hope.
France won't change, the French will.
All right, so the conversation will continue in our post-show, stream.aljazeera.com. If you want to add to it, #AJStream. Malika will be sifting through all of our Twitter comments right now. Let me tell you about the next AJ Stream. Men promoting gender equality. We will bring you a preview of the United Nations Barbershop Conference and find out how men can help promote what's often considered to be women's issues. Until then, we'll see you online. Thanks for watching. This is the Stream's online post show. We've been talking about the recent violence in France and what impact it will have on French society going forward. So, Avi, I was looking at something from the Executive Director of Human Rights Watch, where he was talking about how many people had actually left France and were going to leave France. So he says as anti-Semitism in France grows, 7,000 Jews moved to Israel this year, double the usual amount. Are you seeing that amongst people that you know, where people would rather not be in France and are from the Jewish community?
Yeah, I see a lot of people questioning whether they should stay over the long run, whether they want to have kids in this country if things are not going to change. That's a reality, and it comes as a direct result of the attacks that there was an attack last week. There was another attack in Getty. Another week there's a lot of frustration, and I'm definitely seeing that. And it's, unless things are going to change, you're going to see more and more Jews wanting to leave.
Sure. It almost feels like we've gone back in time, and the idea of anti-Semitism seems to be something that was from decades ago, and now it's re-emerged. Is there something that you think, I know why this has happened in France? Because all the cries have been about French values and liberté, and this seems to be the opposite of all of that.
Yeah, well, there's a paradox.
Yeah.
If you look at the statistics, there's a French public opinion against Jews actually lower than at any time in history, but there's an exponential rise in the number of attacks. That means that we've become targets, but it doesn't mean that French public opinion in general is anti-Semitic. That's a major difference that we have to mention.
Wow, and that's quite hard to tackle, isn't it? So who are the anti-Semitics in French society? Is it a tiny amount of people spoiling it for the majority?
I don't have the answer. I don't have the answer. Just a radical minority, I guess, coming from.
Sure. Malika.
Elsa, you hear Avi is sharing his experiences, and I saw this tweet that I wanted to post to you. This is from Manu, who says, French Muslims and French Jews are in the same boat. Do you
Yes, I agree.
Avi agrees. Elsa, do you agree as well? Do you sense that sense of
we share the burden.
You share the burden. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Yeah, I also agree. At CCIF I work on a pan-European project and to counter Islamophobia, and in its pan-European project we work with a lot of Jewish organizations because I believe there is a lot of similarities between anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. I believe, like we said all together tonight, it's the scapegoat theory. And I believe that definitely we can say that there is a lot of similarities between those two racist phenomenon. So I believe that's why there is an urgent need in France to have a common work between the Jewish community and the Muslim community. It's very important.
So I'm looking.
I completely agree.
Yeah, go ahead, Evie.
No, I completely agree, and that's why I'd like to see more, leadership from both sides coming together and on bringing this change forward. That's what I'd like to see.
I'm just looking at a couple of things here on my laptop. Here is from the rally in Paris, in front of the mosque, members of the Muslim community giving out roses to people as they go by. And then here's another one here, which is, we're all citizens of the world, je suis Charlie. And then here, I'm police, I'm Jewish, I'm Muslim, I'm Christian, I'm atheist, je suis Charlie. So it goes on and on and on and on. These are quite hopeful signs here. But Nora, when we were talking to you, you weren't feeling that hopeful. Why not?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I couldn't hear the end of your question, but
but you weren't feeling very hopeful when I asked you about what's different. You said, well, nothing's really changed. It didn't sound to me like there was an awful lot of hope in the way that you were talking to us.
Yeah, hope is what we need, and the only hope I can see is that we said Muslims and Jews are on the same boat, but all French people are on the same boat, and we all have to work toward this unity you were talking about. It's not only a community issue; it's a really for the whole nation to think about it now.
Mama.
Yeah, it's interesting that this conversation has turned out a lot about like communities and religions, and if you look at the victims of Charlie Hebdo, they were like prominent atheists, and were people who were trying to go beyond this kind of division. And personally, I hope, and I don't see the French society as an aggregation of communities, but rather as a whole. And I think we might get this feeling back.
I think that's too bad, though, because communities do exist, and there's a lot of change they can bring about. And in French public policy in general, they like to pretend that communities don't exist, and they don't have, for the benefit of the French national community in general. But that's not the way reality works, unfortunately.
Manuel?
And that's one of the questions we have to think about when we challenge the current integration model.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that people can see their identity beyond their community.
What does that actually mean, though, Manuel? What does that mean? Doesn't mean I have to stop being Jewish and just be French, whatever French is?
No, definitely not. And that's a great question. It's been a great debate with like all this question around laicity in school, and how we should wear, what we should wear, how we should behave in school.
Could it be that Frenchness is like there's an old-fashioned version of Frenchness, and Frenchness is something that's actually much more about all communities coming together, and an old idea of Frenchness is everybody is the same?
Yeah, no. Well, what I meant by that is more than I wouldn't like to see my country with like areas with just Muslim people or Jewish people, or like having a geographic visible divisions among the people. Of course, people have to live up their values, and Jewish and Muslims alike. And the French society has to respect that, because I feel like sometimes in names of the laicity, we forget those differences, and I think it's a great wealth that we have so much diversity right now.
Right.
Yeah.
But and yet, I mean, it's like it's really up to us to have the good balance in being tolerant enough.
Who said yes?
Yeah,
I heard yes from France. A long way, but I still heard you. Go ahead.
We also have to say that it's not only, we have also a lot of mixity in France. It's something that we are not speaking about, but it's not, there is not only division into communities. It's also very important to talk about mixity, and it exists in France, and that's what we have to preserve.
Yeah. See, Elsa, I find it fascinating when you said that when you put on the hijab, when you converted, you actually understood what it meant to be other, different. And that experience from both sides, how is that helping you understand the situation better in France?
Well, first of all, I understand that Islamophobia is also a type of sexism. Because when I convert, I did not put the hijab first. I put the hijab many months after convert to Islam. So it was very interesting to see the difference before I wear the hijab and after I wear the hijab. And I understood that, actually there is a lot of sexism in the French society, in the way that we feel the right to say to the woman what should they wear or should not they wear. So it's very something that we need to take into account when we talk about Islamophobia.
Sure.
And also I understood that as long as I keep one part of my identity hidden, everything was fine. But as soon as I started to be proud of my identity and show one part of my identity, people started to look me under and to look, to give bad looks to me, etc. So I understood what it is to be stigmatized and discriminated all the time.
Right. Malika?
I want to broaden this out just a little bit because, Nora, we got this comment from someone on Facebook, and it really just speaks to the entire conversation that we're having. I'll read it here. Sandrine says, I'm French, I'm afraid, and I don't know what will happen in the future. So, of course, we've been discussing how you all feel as French citizens for the past 35, 40 minutes, but I'm wondering if this resonates with you, this feeling of being scared and not knowing what's going to happen next.
Of course, it resonates, and it has been resonating for long, as I've been saying before. We have been very lucky until now, and we are facing a situation that has been rising and that is exploding now. So it's normal to have fear. But what matters now is to focus on the unity, on the diversity of our society, and it's very rich, and we have all that it takes to be a united nation. It's only a matter of what we speak in the media. I think it's very important to talk about not only the political speech, but also the polemicists we were talking about. We talked about Zemmour, we both talked about Dieudonné. These people are using fear, are dividing society for their own glory, and this is what matters most today, to fight this way of doing.
Okay, so Nora, Avi, Elsa and Manuel, we thank you for allowing us to actually hear what some French citizens are thinking about following the Charlie Hebdo attack, and thank you very much for your time and for joining us in this conversation on the stream. Moving ahead, let me tell you about our next programme, Men Promoting Gender Equality. We'll bring you a preview of the United Nations Barbershop Conference and find out how men can help promote what's often considered to be women's issues. That conversation on the next AJ stream. See you soon.